What's happening, everyone? Art at Patience Metal Fab, and you're joining me for a breakdown episode on the 69 Firebird. Now, normally we do that when the car is completely done, but we're in a bit of a time crunch because the customer is going to be picking this up tomorrow, and we have a little bit of work yet to do, really just a once-over on the entire car for all the things that we've done on it, mostly on the underside, and then just to install the exhaust, get it off the lift, get all the protective wrap off of it, and get it cleaned up for pickup. But I just figured this would be a good opportunity to do a breakdown on the underside of the car while it's up in the air. So I'm gonna get Gary over here. Once Ben has this up there, we're gonna go over everything we've done that you guys have seen in the series. And if you haven't, I'll put those links down below. We're gonna go a little more in depth, and then like I mentioned, get it back down the ground, get it looking pretty, and even go under the hood of this thing to show you the engine. We've got Gary here, which means that this build is a wrap. We've done all the little things that we needed to, got the exhaust on. Ben just went through and made sure that everything was tight and marked all nuts and bolts. And then you ran into a little bit of an issue up front. You want to talk about that?
There's always something right at the end, isn't there? Yeah, we're going to throw the wheels on, and the billet caps that sit inside the bare brake hub for the front didn't clear the center caps of the wheel. Rim went on, cap came out, wouldn't go back on. So fortunately, with the lathe we got, just popped the caps off the hubs, spun them down real quick, took a little meat off, made the clearance right. Not a big deal, extra 20 minutes worth of work.
If you guys have been watching along in the series, you know it didn't come in looking like this. So where did we start when this thing came in? And maybe let's break down all the individual items that we did.
The goal with this was to take it from a leaf sprung, kind of sloppy old handling car into something that could actually manage some big tire and turn some corners. First step required there, tubs. So Detroit Speed tubs allows a 335 under here. That's a lot of tire. The second issue is that when you put that much tire on a standard axle, you get axle flex, causes knockback, other issues in the brakes. So that's why we go to a full floater. Again, tap Bear for that. So we ran Bear's full floater kit on this thing. No longer is the axle supporting the load of the tire on a turn. It's actually the full floating bearing assembly now at this point. Back here now you got the tire, you got the axle to hold it, got to manage the chassis now. These old chassis aren't known for holding a lot, so full subframe connector, again went to Detroit Speed on that, fully welded in, tied in. All the rubber bushings between the front subframe were replaced with their aluminum bushings. Basically a full system kind of meant to work together. Obviously to do that full floater, you wind up cutting the axle. It gives us an opportunity to narrow it, again, to fit the big tires up underneath it. And it all kind of was meant to allow us to put Ride-Tex 4-link in here, which fitment on these old cars, it was 85%, but we did a little bit of cutting to the floor pan, got that thing in there a little bit beyond sort of the way it was intended to fit. Let us kind of center the wheels a little more in the tubs where we wanted them. You know, really tie the whole rear end together. With their 4-link kit comes a single adjustable. You could certainly go two-way adjustable on this if you're out, you know, actually autocrossing it. In this case, it's just a street car for this guy. He just wanted to handle better.
That's a pretty good summation of what we did back here, and if you guys want more in-depth footage of that, I'm going to put a link in the description to all of the videos in the series for this one. They're awesome. Ben did a really great job on this car, and there was a lot of extensive work that went down. It wasn't easy to make this setup happen. It wasn't all bolted, so go check those out. And I think this is probably a good way to also transition to the front of the car, where we are going to talk about the engine, but before we do, I want to talk about the justification for all this rear-end modification, because all that stuff was already done up front. The one thing that wasn't done, I noticed, is exhaust.
Yeah, don't whack your head on the low exhaust. That'll be a future visit for this. That and some headers. A lot of times we'll do front ends at the same time that we do that kind of stuff in the rear. In this case, it was already done on the car. Previous customer had put a set of QA1s up here with kind of their hybrid coilover setup. Still running the factory spindle, but you can see the bears that we put on here that obviously led to the center cap issue that we had to machine. The nice thing about doing the bears all the way around on this, it gives the car a lot of stopping power. This is their 14-inch 6-piston in the front, 4-piston in the back system, master cylinder. We'll get to that stuff up top.
Now that you're pretty familiar with the underside of the car, I want to show you what the outside looks with all the wrap taken off and it down on the ground, kind of sitting the way it should be. This is my first time seeing the car on the ground with this stance, with everything done and all the wrap off. The paint is looking awesome and it's looking pretty clean. That's one of the advantages to wrapping the car, just making sure that nothing happens to it while it's at the shop, but also once you peel it back, it's like unwrapping a gift essentially. So let's talk about the rear end now that we can see it from the top side.
We can take a minute to kind of look at the stance of the car, right? So obviously whenever you go coilovers, especially 4-link, it allows you to kind of dial in the stance where you want. That Ride Tech 4-link gives basically 3 positions to mount for height, and then you can kind of fine tune it the coilover. We did actually turn down about 1/4 of an inch on the front coilovers to get the front to just drop a little bit closer. We may kind of be you know, right on that edge where the tires start to rub the fenders, but I think we'll be all right. You may just have to be a little careful driving it.
The stance is obviously the form portion of it, but there's also lots of function in this, and one of the big reasons that we did all the work in the rear end is to accommodate what's up front. So I'd like to pop the hood, show off this 455 Butler. That's a lot of motor. How much power would you say that makes?
It's probably 5 and change on the horsepower. It could be over 6 on the torque. Cool thing about this is most of these cars now are either Chevy motor swapped or LS stuff. This is actually still a true 455 Pontiac, and it does. It was built locally, but it does have all Butler parts on it. So it's a well-built motor.
And now it's got the right rear end for it that can actually put that power down, because before with the OEM setup, it just wasn't able to take advantage of everything under the hood. And now it's really a complete car. There's some small odds and ends, like we talked about the exhaust, some underside stuff that could get coated, but this is a really beautiful car, and it's turning into a 6-figure car pretty quickly.
You can also see from this angle, like we talked about, along with those bare brakes, the car got the new master, got the new prop valve in there, so just a little more modernized stopping power to this thing. Last piece of the equation, now that we got the power, we got the brakes, we got the rubber, something to actually kind of keep you planted in the safety side of it. Basic roll bar, more so than rollover protection. This one is meant to give them a set of harnesses in here. The old lap belts and these seats aren't gonna cut it. So the next thing this will get, a set of seats, throw a set of harnesses in here, it'll be planted, be a whole different car now.
Well, there you have it. I'm glad we got to highlight this car before the owner picked it up. It's obviously a really cool machine, and there's a couple things that need to get done. I'm really excited to see the owner take it and bring it back here, probably for our open house in the spring. I'm really proud of the work we did underneath, obviously, so I want to see his reaction to it. I'm sure he'll be happy with everything that's done. Now, if you guys haven't caught up on everything that we did do to this car, I'm going to put all the links in the description so you can catch up with the series. And who knows, eventually maybe we'll bring it back and show you the absolute finished product on this one. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the page, and we'll see you in the next one.